Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas, Chicago, and Grand Rapids. In Chicago, it's stand-up and a live panel show. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com. Here's what's even more fishy. Tucker Carlson was ridiculed 6 months ago. This is what Tucker Carlson said 6 months ago.
They called him names. He won anyway. They impeached him twice on ridiculous pretenses. They fabricated a lot about what happened on January 6th in order to impeach him again. It didn't work. He came back. Then they indicted him. It didn't work. He became more popular. Then they indicted him 3 more times. And every single time his popularity rose. So if you begin with criticism, then you go to protest, then you go to impeachment, now you go to indictment, and none of them work, what's next? I mean, graph it out, man. We're speeding toward assassination, obviously, and no one will say that, but I don't know how you can reach that conclusion. You know what I mean? Like, they have decided, permanent Washington, both parties have decided that there's something about Trump that's so threatening to them, they just can't have him. So
that's quite prescient of Tucker Carlson, who's been around politics his entire life. And of course, he was immediately called a nut job. Tucker Carlson claims we're speeding toward assassination of Trump, amping up baseless far-right conspiracy theory. That's from last September. Aliyah Shob said that in the Business Insider. So, again, they can't help discredit them. In one sense, it's good. It discredits the corporate media. Again.
Yeah.
I'm sure, no matter what, I'm sure this video is going to be demonetized. I did a video I dropped today about Rachel Maddow reacting to saying that Joe Biden, his foreign policy is fundamentally right. That's what she said after his NATO speech. And I had to point out how he's been fundamentally wrong his entire career. Not only now with Gaza and Ukraine, but he was one of the guys who was super wrong about Iraq forever. And Libya, of course, and Afghanistan for 20 years, and Syria, of course, all those things. And they demonetized it. What? I'm covering Rachel Maddow, covering something? And so that they're on the warpath. YouTube is on the warpath with demonetization. So I'm sure no matter what I say or do, they're going to demonetize it. They're not going to let independent voices talk about this.
That's a really... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, that's actually a very important point. And one of the reasons why Tucker sounded so crazy at the time is because he's one of the very few sort of uncancelable voices in media now that he is a freelancer, right? Like the average Joe with their little YouTube channel can't come out and say what he said at the time because they might be censored for saying that, right? And at the very least, they'll be demonetized for saying that. They make it cost prohibitive to talk that way. Israel, Gaza, same thing. It costs money to cover that topic. Every video you do on that topic is going to be demonetized. So Tucker comes out and says that. It makes perfect sense at the time. But the reason why he is out on a limb is because he's one of the only people in media who can actually afford to talk that way, because he's the only one who doesn't need to rely on these big tech sites to get the bills paid, right? And so that's one of the reasons why I think, he's out in front on a lot of these things, is because he has fuck you money in that sense, I guess. Yep.
Well, Taibbi just dropped an article about this today, laying out how, they put all their hopes in the Mueller report. And when that failed, increasingly their rhetoric could lead to no other conclusion than this. He pointed out an op-ed that Victoria Nuland's husband wrote, where he said, Trump is like a meteor that's going to crash into the earth. We have to take every conceivable means possible to stop it. What does that mean, conceivable means? Well, that's a very broad category. He didn't say legal. He said conceivable. So he really lays out how, okay, well, once you drum up the idea for years that Trump is an existential threat to democracy, he's the next Hitler, he's Mussolini on steroids, he's going to destroy the country, it's going to be a Handmaid's Tale. Well, what does that suggest other than its assassination?
As Max Blumenthal said, here's what he said. He said, an assassin tried to take Trump out 48 hours before the Republican National Convention. Had the shooter succeeded, the billionaire GOP donor class would have faked some tears and eagerly selected Trump's replacement, undoubtedly a more pliable candidate with a weak popular base. Meanwhile, after blocking let's remember that Trump didn't come up through the regular normal channels, which is why they've always hated him, and they did Russiagate. The first thing they did was they planted a fake story from the Clinton campaign and the FBI and the CIA that he was working for an enemy country and that he was compromised, and they had compromat on him. That was all fake. It was all made up. The Mueller report revealed that. And because at the opening page of it, it said there's no evidence. There's no evidence to substantiate these accusations. That's what Mueller came to. No unlimited resources to investigate that stupid theory. And they couldn't find anything. So, and then they went on to impeach him twice, 2 bogus impeachments. And then, just like Tucker Carlson said, 4 stupid indictments, one more ridiculous than the next. And even Andrew Cuomo went on Bill Maher and said, yeah, that case only got brought in New York City by Alvin Bragg because his name was Trump. Because of who the guy was. And he said, if I was Attorney General, which I was, I would have never brought that case. So even Democratic governors or former governors and attorney are starting to crack and say, yeah, this is lawfare. And so if they're willing to do that right out in the open, and by the way, remember the Republican base of the Republican donor class, the Republican power centers aren't screaming about it. They're not saying we demand an end to this. They're quietly letting it happen. So they want him out too. And it's just because, exactly as he said, they want someone weaker and more pliable than Trump. Not that Trump is going to be a radical departure from a regular but he will be, maybe, if he gives, for instance, if he gives if he ends the Ukraine war, that would be horrible for them. If he actually pulls us out of NATO, that would be horrible for them.
Right.
If he actually turns on Benjamin Netanyahu, which he has, and to a certain extent, and force a peace deal, that would be that'd be horrible for Israel and the Zionists.
Well, you want to really see where they showed what their agenda is. The night that he bombed Syria, they all
loved him.
Stuck out there, olive branches. They sent him a very clear message: you keep doing this, and we got you.
That's right.
We'll do the same thing.
You're our president.
With Bush. As soon as the Supreme Court decided, that was it. They started writing their puff pieces about how he keeps bankers' hours in his White House, all that BS. They would have done the same thing with Trump if he had just played ball after that night. Oh, the beauty of our weapons. That's Jones, right. He became president tonight. That they would have given him that treatment. They would have completely rehabilitated him if he had just played ball.
And let's remember, when Trump decided to pull the troops out of Syria, they didn't let him. Like, they told Trump that, oh yeah, we're pulling him out, and then they didn't. That the generals went against Donald Trump. So just like Chuck Schumer, I can't believe I don't have that fucking video. When Chuck Schumer told Rachel Maddow, hey, guess what? The Trump is being really dumb to go against the intelligence community because they have 6 ways of Sunday to get back at you. And this looks like one of them. Right. And so they wouldn't let him run his own foreign policy.
Well, and this is where, they're trying to use Project 2025 to gin up their Kool-Aid drinking base. But if you dig into the details of Project 25, well, okay, why would they want to replace all of these permanent bureaucrats? Well, look what happened with Syria. Look what happened. Like, okay, so you believe so much in norms and guardrails, which is the big Democratic talking point. Is it proper for a president not to be able to execute policy that's within his purview because you have a deep state of permanent bureaucrats that will thwart his policies when he tries to have them enacted? Like, isn't that affects Democrats too? Isn't that a worthwhile thing to discuss?
And so when Chuck Schumer said that the intelligence community has 6 ways Sundays with messing with the president, I think this is the 6th way. Because they've tried the first 5.
Oh, yeah.
They tried to just ignore his directives as leader of foreign policy. They've tried to call him a traitor to the country. They've tried to impeach him. They tried twice. They did 92 felony counts with 4 different indictments, 4 different. So they've tried all the other 5 ways, and this would be the 6th way. That's what it certainly seems like to me. And here, let me just finish.
It failed again.
And it failed again because the guy turned his head. Because he turned his head. So he says
he is the roadrunner.
So I'll read this again, the whole tweet. An assassin tried to take out Trump 48 hours before the RNC. Had the shooter succeeded, the billionaire class of the GOP would have faked some tears and eagerly selected Trump's replacement, undoubtedly a more pliable candidate with a weak popular base. Meanwhile, after blocking a primary campaign, the billionaire Democratic donor class is orchestrating the political euthanization of Joe Biden through a series of closed-door meetings, aiming to replace him with a candidate of their choosing who no real American voted for. But remember, democracy's on the ballot. So this is not an election. They want it to be another selection. Just like Barack Obama was selected by Wall Street, and we know that because of the email that came from Citigroup to his campaign with a list of people they wanted in his cabinet, and everybody on that list ended up in his cabinet. And how do we know about that email from Wall Street to Barack Obama's campaign? Julian Assange revealed that through WikiLeaks, which is why they've been trying to kill him ever since.
Yeah.
So that we don't really have elections. We have selections in America. I'm the first person. Someone else said that. I'm repeating it. And you get to vote for someone they've already that the establishment is okay with. They would be okay with John McCain or Barack Obama. Right. They would be okay with Al Gore or George Bush, because Bill Clinton and Al Gore became right-wing Republicans. They became a corporatist, right? They started the Democratic Leadership Council, and they put Koch brothers executives on their Democratic Leadership Council. They opened the floodgates up. They called Wall Street and says, we're in business. And so that's when they gutted welfare. At the same time, they deregulated Wall Street. They consolidated the media. They put 100,000 more. They did what they could for the for-profit. They did NAFTA, which cut the legs out from underneath workers for a generation. The whole thing. So you're just like they were. But they weren't okay with Trump because they couldn't control Trump as much as they like. And so he wouldn't do the wars exactly like. I mean. It is amazing what it would take to piss off the donor class. But they know if Trump gets elected, he will find peace in Ukraine. And he might give away the eastern part of Ukraine to Russia. And they can't have any of that. They still think they're going to balkanize Russia. They still think they're going to be able to crush Russia, split it up, and sell it off to Vanguard and BlackRock, which is what they're doing right now to Ukraine. Ukraine's being split up and sold off to BlackRock and Vanguard. That's what's happening. And they thought they were going to be able...
Even if he...
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Even if he doesn't do any of that, the simple gestures, like the things we almost kind of forget about during his time in office, like going to North Korea and shaking hands with Kim Jong-un. Remember the Helsinki conference where he accepted the soccer ball from Putin as a gift? Like, even that just drove them insane. To the point where even if he doesn't end the Ukraine war, just those things alone signal to them that they can't control him as much as they'd like. And you're right. They love democracy as long as the results don't matter. And that's why they're freaked out by Project 2025, because they rely on the powers of these 3-letter agencies to basically neutralize the outcome of a democratic process that is outside of their purview, right? So without the 3-letter agencies exercising a check over the president, it actually matters who the president is. And they don't like that. They don't want it to matter who the president is. They want to give you your choice of option A, option B, knowing that they'll be just fine no matter who wins.
Hey, I'll see you on tour in Las Vegas, Chicago, and Grand Rapids. In Chicago, it's stand-up and a live panel show. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets, and make sure you go to jimmydore.com.